Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar, and I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by our free community, the Circle of Resilient and Thriving Pet Professionals. If you like the ideas shared here, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the community. You can find out more at colleenpilar.com. It's the perfect place for you to learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Karen Deeds, the owner of Canine Connection for the Real World Canine. And I got to tell you, Karen, I'm so curious about for the Real World Canine. When you put that in the name, can you tell? Well, first off, welcome. And then secondly, tell me a little bit about how you named your business.
Well, I started my business, back in 1994. So I've been around a long time. I'm a little older than you would think. But I actually started out as just Canine Connection. And then I met my husband in 2000, I guess. We actually got married in 2004, and we kind of merged businesses. He was a dog trainer as well. In fact, he is he's retired now. He's a federal canine handler. So he did disaster search and rescue. And so he was training at this little, boutique type place, boarding facility. And he actually hired me in, I think, 2002 to come in and revamp his program to be more positive versus the more aversive type techniques that he was more familiar with. So I kind of converted him, and we ended up getting married in 2004. So we started to combine our businesses, and the Real World, basically what it meant, because we came from dog training from different worlds. He was disaster search and rescue and some pet dog. I was shelter, assistance dog, veterinary clinic, pet dog, pet sitting, boarding facility. Gosh, I pretty much had my hands on a lot of things. And so it just became the real world. I mean, that's what we do as dog trainers. I think it's very important as dog trainers to understand there's a lot of different applications and implications about dog training and how it affects people in their world. There's a huge difference between somebody who's doing sport work and somebody who just wants their dog not to jump on them when they come home. And I work with both, which sometimes is it's easier working with some pet people and it's easier working with some competition people. And then you had the real world of Bob, my husband, who his real world was crazy search and rescue dogs. And we ended up doing narcotics dogs and arson dogs and termite and peanut and allergy dogs and all sorts of that stuff. So our world just became huge as to what we dabbled in. And I shouldn't even say we dabbled, because we did a pretty dang good job of doing all that stuff. But it was just a way of putting together that we can help people in all aspects of dog training is kind of where that came from. So that's interesting. I've never had anybody ask me about that phrase, for the real world. That's funny. Interesting. Okay.
It struck me. I was like, that's kind of cool. I'm curious about that. So what does your career look like right now? What is it that you're doing these days, since you clearly have done everything, but what has your attention now?
All of that. So 2 years ago, we moved from Texas to Tennessee. It's been about 2 years, and we basically started all over, which was probably not the wisest thing in the world to do. But here we are. So I have found myself continuing to do workshops for rescue groups, for shelters, I'm doing workshops for competition type people for behavior. I just came back from the Fenzi Dog Sport Academy, or the Fenzi Ranch in California, and did a reactive workshop out there. The focus of my business is probably still reactivity, but a lot of it has now mutated into, I'm working with a lot of people who are having behavior problems with their competition or sport dog.
Mm-hmm.
And since, working dogs, sport dogs, high drive, some high anxiety, knowing how to temper that without aversives is helpful. Because the sport dog world, we take these high drivey, sometimes high anxiety, overly aroused dogs, and we're trying to put that we're trying to take the gas off and put them, regulate them a little bit, without squashing their drive to do the work. And my husband was one of the very first people in the FEMA system to not use a lot of aversive equipment. And I'm going to say that probably came because he married me, but because when I met him, he had an e-collar and a pinch collar on his dog, and then he saw the light, so to speak, and he trained his next couple of dogs without aversives. And so knowing that it can be done that way those are the people I'm seeing, is people that are in competition and they know enough about positive reinforcement training, but they also are a little bit more balanced. And sometimes that balance isn't working for them. So we have to go a little bit more into the reducing arousal. And so, a lot of it is about, with the competition people, is that it's trying to get the dog to be in a more thoughtful state of mind. The shelter work, um, I've been driving back and forth to Texas a lot. But I'm doing a lot of in-home lessons now, private lessons. Started doing some what I call immersion programs, where I actually will go to somebody's locale and stay close by. Normally, I'm trying to find people where I can stay that are friends of mine, so that it doesn't cost the client any more than it should. And so I'm staying for free, but then I visit with them 2 to 3 times a day. And we work with their dog, and we give them a break, and we with their dog and we give them a break. And we do that for a couple of days on, couple of days off, couple of days on. And typically we're working on, mostly it's reactivity. I will not do this with anybody that I haven't already met before or has not seen their house, their layout, and what their goals are. So it's an interesting program, and I'll be gone most of December, either doing workshops for competition people, private lessons for competition people, pet dog stuff, and then these are some immersion programs back in Texas that I'll be doing. Plus, forgot about this. I work 2 days a week at my sister's vet clinic. And I used to work at a vet clinic pretty much full time when I was much, much younger. I actually was pet sitting and running a boarding facility and doing vet clinics and working for an assistance dog organization and doing dog training. It's when I was really young and really not dumb. So I was busy, which I still am, but
Which you still are.
which I still am. But the vet clinic has been very interesting. Number one, it's my sister's vet clinic. So the pride I have in watching my older sister, who went to school with a 5-year-old child in tow and graduated cum laude, I'm pretty proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
She owns her own practice, the small animal practice, and the gals that I work with are I mean, they're top notch. They're great people. And it has been interesting, yet somewhat frustrating. I'm only there 2 days a week because, of course, the other days of the week, I want to be seeing clients.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very good about allowing me time off. Like, I don't think I'm working a single day in December because I'm traveling the entire month of December for the most part. So I guess I'm still doing what I've been doing for the last 30 years: shelter, rescue, pet dog, competition dog, even some working dog, not a lot of that anymore. Um, and most of it is geared around behavior. I love puppies. I mean, it would be nice if I were able to come in and work with somebody with their puppy to prevent problems.
Hmm.
But and alas, most of the time I get the calls after we have a problem, and then I have to come in and we have to, kind of start all over and pick up the pieces and go from there. But I love working with puppies, just to prevent problems, to help educate people more about dogs, because I think dogs dogs have changed, and I'm just going to say that. I think in the last 10 years, I have seen dogs have changed. I can't answer why. I think when discussing this with a bunch of colleagues, we would come up with some similar ideas. Is it our expectations? Is it the breeding? Is it nutrition? Is it, um, you know, our, like I say, our expectations? What are we expecting out of our dogs? Why are they so different? Because I see a lot of anxiety in dogs nowadays that I used to not. Um, and I think it's pretty much all of the above that's contributing to our dogs being different than they were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So, I see a lot of that. And when I work with these people, it's more about addressing the dog's needs, but as well as addressing their wants. So sometimes it's a matter of talking to somebody and hearing them say, well, I need to take my dog for a walk. I said, do you really? Does your dog want to go for a walk around your neighborhood where there's screaming children and bicycles and fire trucks zipping by? Is your dog comfortable doing that? If not, absolutely, we can work on that. That's typically our goal. But a lot of people don't realize that their dog can live a fat, dumb, happy life, not ever doing that type of walk. Maybe we go to a sniff spot and we let them run off leash and we find some buddies to hang out with. But maybe we don't have to walk them around the scary block every day. And sometimes that information is really freeing to them to know that they're not a bad dog owner if they're not taking their dog for a walk all the time. Because goodness knows there's a lot of things that we can do in the home to get mental and physical exercise, a lot. And I like to focus on that. And sometimes it frees them up to have a real life instead of, a trapped life with their dog.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good goal. It's a good goal. And it ties in a little bit to what you said earlier about helping a dog be in a more thoughtful state of mind. That's a really
Yes.
piece there. So wow, what an amazing conglomeration of things that you've created. It's really extraordinary. A question I always like to ask is, what did you think when you were 10 you were going to do with your life? And can you kind of take me from 10-year-old Karen to this Karen who's doing all the things?
Yeah.
How did that play out?
So when I was 10, we lived in the country and we did horses. My sisters and I showed in 4-H, and we showed at now we had Appaloosas, so we showed in the world of Appaloosas, and of course, big in 4-H. And as I grew up, I always thought I was going to be the veterinarian. Didn't know my sister was going to be, but I thought maybe I would be. And we had a tragedy when I was 12. Our house blew up and burned down, and we had to move into the city for a little while. And when we moved back out to the country, then I was, freshman in high school, whatever, that kind of thing. And things just kind of changed. I ended up moving into the city with my mother, and my mother and father got a divorce. I was still very active in horses as much as I could, but after that separation, I no longer had access to my horse.
Mhm.
I ended up moving to Nebraska to train horses with a professional trainer. We work with children, with youth. And so I brought my horse with me, and I was kind of in charge of the barn of horses and working with the kids and keeping the horses well cared for in Nebraska. And it was colder than, wow, cold, really cold.
Colder than
Uh,
wow.
it was just cold. It was so cold. And I'm from Kansas, so you wouldn't think that Nebraska is that much colder, but OMG, it was really cold. And so I was up there for almost a year, I think. And I thought at that point, oh, I'm going to become a professional horse trainer. Well, yeah, that didn't pan out either. I went back to Kansas, ended up in the floral design business. Where does that come from? I mean, interior and floral design. Which was fun. It was very creative, but again, I was kind of the front office type receptionist, greeting people, helping them design things, doing phone orders, that kind of stuff. So it was just kind of menial stuff, but it was very people oriented.
Mhm.
So I've always been very people oriented. I've always heard people say that dog training isn't about the dogs, it's about the people. And I would agree with that.
Mhm.
The dog training is easy. That's why when we did board and trains, it was so easy to work with the dogs and then, create a dog that the person can now handle versus teaching the person how to handle the dog and train the dog at the same time. Whew, that's a lot harder.
Mm.
But so anyway, gosh, at that point in time, I moved and God, I moved to Texas doing computers. My life has been just pretty much all over the place. And in all honesty, I'm not very highly educated. I mean, I graduated from high school and I went to 2 years of junior college. That's it.
Mhm.
I don't have a PhD. I don't have any of those really cool initials behind my name. But it's kind of the school of hard knocks.
Mhm.
And so I experienced a lot of things. Again, the working with people. And when I was first moved to Texas, got into the computer industry, and I started traveling and installing computers and teaching the new owners of those said computers how to work them. So I would travel, run cables, install computers. I mean, physically install computers, drill
Mhm.
holes in the floor and the ceiling, run cables, all of that kind of stuff. And then I would sit and we would teach them how to work the computer. And I did that for a couple of years. And gosh, at some point in time, I think I got married. Yeah, that's what happened. I got married. And that one didn't work out. So anyway, I just I started, I got married and I actually stopped working and I started volunteering for a humane society. Now, granted, I had already been kind of dabbling in training my own dog and competing in AKC competitions. And this is where things really got interesting, is because I was working with my dog, who was a breed not known for being nice, but he was lovely. He was a chow chow,
Mhm.
a beautiful blonde chow. And I did therapy work with him because he was really a sweet dog. But I was doing a out of sight downstay in a church parking lot in January of 1990. Yeah, it's pretty memorable. January 9th of 1990. And I left him on an out of sight downstay and went behind the church building just around the corner. And I was attacked. There was either somebody waiting to break into the church or waiting on a drug deal. Whatever happened is I started getting beat up. And my dog heard me screaming and yelling, and he cautiously rounded the corner, like, I know I shouldn't break my downstay, but you sound pretty distraught, Mom. So he came around the corner and he saw what was going on. He charged, he chased the guy away. And I was, semi conscious at that point. He licked my face. We made it back to the duplex. And I called an ambulance and they came and got me, yada, yada, torn ligaments in my neck, concussion, that kind of stuff. But what happened was like 2 weeks later, I took him to be groomed. Now, remember, this is a dog that he was 4 years old. I did obedience competitions with him. I went to therapy with him. He loved the little seniors, the senior home. I loved kids. He pretty much was just a really great dog, in spite of the fact that he was a chow chow. And so I took him to the groomer, and 2 hours later, they called me and they said, "Ma'am, you need to come get your dog. He's trying to eat the bather." So I show up in my little neck brace because I've got all this head trauma. And I said, what's going on? Well, the bather comes out and he's the spitting image of the guy who had assaulted me. And that's when I learned about one event learning, how dogs can make quick associations. And did. And so I hired that kid. I picked up my dog and took him home, and I hired the kid. I said, can I come back this evening? Will you help me? And he said, sure. So I brought him back. And of course, at this point, I'd gone to 2 whole years of junior college and taken psychology was my primary at the time. So I'm thinking, what should I do? So anyway, the kid is there at 6:00 at night, middle of February. It's cold, but it's Texas. It's not that bad. So the kid I have him stand behind a pillar in front of the grooming office. And I'm at the other end of the driveway or the parking lot. And the kid steps out from behind the pillar, and my dog looks at him and growls. And I start shoving hot dogs at him. And then I nod my head, and the kid goes and disappears again. And I tell my dog, all done. Kid comes out, hot dogs. Kid goes in, all done. Kid comes out, hot dogs. Kid goes in, all done. About the 5th time the kid comes out, my dog goes, hey, there's that cool kid that makes mommy give me hot dogs. So he looked at me and I said, awesome, sit, hot dogs. So I didn't really even know what the heck I was doing back then. Classical counter conditioning, right? It's pretty simple. But that's what started my journey into behavior. And this is 1990. Do you remember what we did in 1990 for behavior? It was all about obedience. Sit, stay, down, come. It was all about make the dog do something else. We didn't really care about their feelings. So I started on the journey of going to as many seminars and conferences, which were few and far between back then.
They were.
And in fact, I was supposed to go to my first APDT conference, I think, in 93. Was it 93? No, it was 97. I don't remember. And ironically, my mother had passed away, so I didn't get to go. But I remember going to some vet conferences, and Roland Tripp. I don't know if anybody knows who Roland is. But back then I remember listening to him, and he was talking about, the sciencey stuff, this classical conditioning and operant conditioning. I'm going, what is he talking about? Oh my God, I'm so stupid. And, but I kept going and I kept going. And pretty soon that information started to become very familiar. And then the more stuff I went to, the more people were talking about that. And the more it made sense to me. And anyway, it was a slow progression. And I had my hands on a lot of dogs because at that point in time, I started volunteering for a rescue group and doing some shelter work and doing that kind of stuff and training and just all morphed into a lot, just a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
The queen of understatement. It all morphed into a lot. That's awesome. So I always ask my guests to share some words that have meaning to them. And the words you shared are, when you know better, you do better. And I think you've just illustrated that so beautifully all the way through your stories that you've been telling. But I want to ask you about those words in particular. How did they come into your awareness, and what do they mean to you now?
I think in the beginning, it was me applying those words more to my clients, educating them so that they know better, they will do better. But I have to admit, lately, probably in the last 5 years, I've always applied it to me, but more so in a sense of my own self. When I know better, I do better. In other words, I used to be pretty harsh on other trainers, other people. It's easy to be judgmental. And I wasn't so much with my clients because I know they don't know any better. That's why they hired me. And I'm very thankful for that. And there are always those clients that when they hire you and they have some cognitive dissonance going on and they're like, yeah, I'm not buying that because I want my dog to be, subservient to me and I want to be the alpha. Well, I just kind of tell those people, yeah, that's not how I work. So maybe you need to find somebody else. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And I'm okay with that. So those are the people I kind of chalk off to, yeah, I can't help them and they will probably never know better. But I started seeing it even within myself that I don't need to be that way with everybody. In other words, this is another phrase. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard for me. That was hard for me. I'm German. My maiden name is Linenberger. For God's sakes, I'm German. I have a German temper. Ask my husband, he knows. So I've had to really kind of slow down my jets and realize that, there's a lot of trainers that are coming up now that are young. They just haven't been through the stuff that I've been through, which, like you say, is a lot. And I want to be more helpful to them versus hurtful. And I have a group of friends back in Texas. I feel like I'm their mother hen. Now, one of them is married and has 3 of her own children, and the other 2 young girls are young girls. They're not married, but I've kind of taken them all under my wing. And, we talk every day. We have a chat on Facebook and we discuss cases and we discuss life. And it's so cool to have these girls. And I'm going to use the word to mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very fulfilling. And, if we do have to gripe about somebody, we do it there. And I try not to do it in public. Because social media has changed the world, right? I mean, for better or for worse, I'm not sure. But I have found myself, better. When you know better, you do better. It's when I know better to keep my mouth shut, I will keep my mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
And it does no good. I know there's a huge divide in the dog training world right now. And in the beginning, I used to fight that fight, and I don't anymore. Number one is I'm old. I don't have the energy, I don't think. But the other is, you know what? I'm not going to change anybody's minds by shoving things down their throat. I'm just going to do what I do, and my clients will be better off for it. And that's the only thing I can do.
And that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, I think that's the piece that gets missed is that each of us showing up in the world and doing our part in our way with our good intentions is a lot. And I don't know, word battles on social media sites don't typically sway anyone's opinion on anything, but real conversations with real people and having your mentorship of these trainers has ripple effects far beyond anything that you could say on any social media site. So the pieces, focusing on what we can do matters.
Even the first time I got most recently was asked to come back to Texas and to work with a group of people that trained competitively. I mean, we're talking arches, like multiple arches. I've never gotten
Mhm.
an arch in my life. My God. I mean, I did rally and some obedience and, whatever. I dabbled in that um, and thought I was pretty good, but whatever. But these people were like highly competitive. And I knew her. I mean, she was she's definitely doesn't train the way I do, but she knew she had a problem with her own dog and that her students were having problems with their dogs. So she contacted me and she says, would you come work with my people? And I went, ugh, mm, do I want to? Do I want to put myself in there? Because I know they're all going to be in pinch collars and whatever, and you know what I decided? I said, you know what? Maybe when they know better, they'll do better.
Mhm.
And by God, I went that weekend. I have never had such an amazing time. The people were phenomenal. They were receptive. They were amazing. Before I left, they booked me to come back in another month. So I came back a second time, and now I'm seeing these students posting, high end trials and this, and I can't help but think maybe I had a little bit to do with that. I mean, they just a little bit, because, they were having behavior issues in the ring, and they just didn't know how to work through them.
Mhm.
So problem solving is huge. And, they were kind of using a hammer um, for every nail, where they didn't need to be using a hammer for every nail. And so anyway, I started doing that. And now I've got somebody in Nashville that I'm working with, and a training facility out there. Same thing. These are highly competitive people. And I'm not. I'm just a lowly old behavior kind of sort of geeky person that never went to school, and just school of hard knocks, and have a lot of stuff in my brain that I can pull from. And that's kind of where I am. Yeah.
And that's incredibly valuable. It's
Yeah.
incredibly valuable. So, if I could give you a magic wand and you had the power to bestow a wish upon all pet professionals, what would you give us?
Ooh, kindness. Kindness towards each other. I think most of my colleagues have kindness towards dogs. They don't always have kindness towards people. And that's something I'm working really hard on. That's that when I know better, I'll do better. And I am finding that find a group of people that are kind, and work with them.
Mhm.
Stay with them. Find a tribe that supports you. Um, Not just who you are, but maybe even towards who you want to be. And
I love that.
that's what I've done. And and I can't I'm gonna have to say a name. I just have to. I've started working for Fancy Dog Sport Academy. I guess it's been 2 years now. And I have never seen such kindness in their group of people.
Mhm.
It's an amazing community. It just is.
Mhm.
Um, I always feel uplifted just reading their stuff, and talking with their staff, because I'm staff now.
Mhm.
And anyway, it's just I found kind of a niche of where I want to be. Um, yeah, that's just, I mean, it's making me a better person. That's all I can say. The kindness has made me a better person.
Well, we will take it. We will take that kindness that you're
Yes.
bestowing upon us all, and we will use it. So, if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, Karen, how could they do that?
I have a website, deedscanineconnection.com. And of course, my email is canineconnection at deedscanineconnection.com. It's the world's longest email address. Uh, but of course, I'm also on Facebook. And one of the things I'm going to kind of go back just a little bit, Colleen, because I am working at the vet clinic. That kindness, that's probably the hardest place to give that kindness. Because as I watch people in the lobby with their dogs that are stressing out, and I'm behind the counter at the receptionist desk, I just want them to be kind to their dogs that are stressing out instead of being so demanding. And that's hard for me. That's where I'm struggling the most. That's just where I'm struggling the most. And I would love to have more support from that community. Those of us behind that front desk that are seeing the general practices, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I think you're going to get that when you're doing when you're working in a behavioral clinic, but you're not going to see that in general practice.
Mhm.
It's really hard. And sometimes it's hard for me to be kind. So I just have to step away.
Yeah.
And it's, every now and then I get called into a room to help counsel somebody, but that's not my job there, even though they kind of use me for that. And sometimes I try to bestow some kindness on them at the window as we're checking in or checking out. and just say, you know what, hey, it's okay just to let your dog whine a little bit and just rub him on the ears. Well, no, he needs to be obedient. And I'm like, yeah, no, he's really not. Right now, he just needs some help. And so trying to help people and be kind in that way, that's where I'm struggling the most right now. It's not so much in the other profession, because I think I'm working towards, the dog training behavior profession. I think I got kindness going on pretty good there. It's in the vet lobby that I have the biggest problem. But anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm hoping, I'm going to just put this out here on the podcast. I'm hoping to get more voices from the front part of the vet office to talk to me. So hello, hello. I want to talk to you. Because it matters. And our experience as pet professionals varies dramatically depending on what role we have and how we're encountering people and their dogs. Because, well, animals, because it's not always dogs in this particular case. But the challenges that we face are all about who we are as people and how we want to be. And I think so much of what you shared today is really helpful. And I think you've mentored us all today. So I appreciate that, Karen. Thanks for being on.
It was my greatest pleasure. So good to see you again.
So good to see you. Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home. I invite you to come learn more at ColleenPilar.com, where you can be steady, be strong, and be long.